always trying to hold it together just long enough. Oh, that clip is live. I'm seeing that now. That's the huge Corki package. One big team fight will turn everything around. So
Yeah, but a lot of teams have different play styles in it. Some players like to go for the front to back. Some teams enjoy that as well. However, some others are a little bit more aggressive. So we're going to have to see what play styles the teams have. Because remember, guys, this is going to be the first game for both of these teams of the season. So anything can happen.
right. And for this being the very first kickoff, can you give us a little bit of a rundown on what the format's going to look like? Is this an open league? Is this knockouts? Or what's the immediate format of this?
So, from my knowledge of the way that this is going to work, is all of the teams are going to be put into groups. So you're going to have certain teams facing other teams in this, and then those teams are going to come together for a usual knockout stage at the end till we have one final team as the winner.
Oh, okay. So these are placed out in their pools, and everyone's duking it out for that number one seed, that easier opponent later on.
Yeah, I can actually
Okay.
tell you what teams are in what division. So for the Division 1, Group 1, we have Polymerd, we have Jacinto 669, CCG Muffins, Monk Esports, ShipX United, Froststorms, and Underworld Empire. Then in Group 2, we have Reef Tsunami, which has won the league before. We got Ablaze, T7 Clarity, CCG Chaos, Limelight Royalty, Dungeon City Gaming, and then TAA, which is playing today.
Brilliant stuff. Absolutely stoked to get this thing kicked off once we get everybody into our lobby. And should be good. Do we have any anticipations on any front runners? You said someone has already won the league last season. I didn't quite catch that name.
So I'm going to quickly ask Logic so I don't get wrong. Who won last season over? No one actually won last season, which is quite interesting to hear, Logic. But yeah, so
Hey.
one of the teams I do know that has won is going to be Reef Tsunami. So that is a team you're going to have to watch out for in Group 2.
Right. Okay. So there's honestly a vacated crown makes that all the more exciting. It's a complete free for all looking to. I mean, anyone can get their hands on that throne, right? If there's no one there to defend it, there's no one there to try and hold the crown and try and hold their title. It's a free for all, every up for the taking.
Yeah, no, completely correct there. And the big thing about leagues like this allows players to really shine. If you are better than the rest, it is going to be so obvious. Then you could go from leagues like this, go into those ERLs, and maybe even one day get get to maybe the world stage. This is just a place for these players to grow and hone their skills for that.
Absolutely, and everyone's just looking to put their stamp on the game, try and exert their will and play their game because in a lot of ways, this game comes down to whoever is able to play their style is hugely favored. If you're able to exert your will, able to force them to play the way that you want, you set the tempo, you set the pace, you set what this game is going to look like, you will be heavily favored in those kinds of
Yeah, that's
situations.
Yeah, that's the benefit of League of Legends is there are so many different playstyles you have to go for. But there is one champion I do want to talk about that has been coming around in the meta recently with a Emax, and that is going to be the Annie.
Absolutely. And that's the flex pick, Annie, looking mid support. I've seen a lot of Shirelias, even in the mid lane. I've been seeing a couple of Shirelias there, which is fairly unusual to have the supports. Kind of the utility coming out of your mid lane, but don't be fooled by the support in air quotes. I have been the victim of Tibbers one too many times. I can still hear the little voice line as I get absolutely two tapped by a flaming bear dropped on my head.
Yeah, and then the laugh from the girl as well, just seeing your doom and how you just cannot stop it. But the reason they picked Shirelias is just for the speed up, just to allow them to get themselves into the fight. Because of the E as well, giving them a shield. It's like having a Zillia mid. It gives you a little bit of shielding, gives you a little bit of protection. And then if you ever want to get in and you want that quick engage, you can just Shirelias in, Tibbers on top of them, stun them straight away afterwards. And there's just nothing the enemy team can do.
Right, you're able to again. It comes right back to teed up beautifully. It's your game, and you're exerting your will on it. If you're able to start those fights on your terms, you'll be in some pretty good shape.
Yeah, it also has quite good lane priority as well. So it's just really powerful all the way through the game as it has a 54% win rate in solo queue right now in the support role.
Right, it's currently number one If I'm not mistaken, the win rate is #1 in support role, and I think #3 in the mid lane. If I
I
have those
do.
numbers off the top of my head.
Yeah, I do believe you are correct. So we're going to have to see if the Annie is going to be coming out. There has been a few counter picks played into it, though. We did see a Swain come out in the LEC this week.
Right. Things that, from my experience, things that can space it out seem to do quite nicely into it. Things like the Maokai support, things like the Lux, things that you can pretty much keep at arm's reach if you're never in range of those. She's not wearing any gauntlets. She's not wearing anything. It's just herself and her little bear wandering around the rift. So if you can kind of keep her at a safe distance, you will be enjoying your life.
Of course, there's only one other way that you could counter it, and that is with a character, like I said before, which is the Swain. And the reason it works so well against it is he's able to take the damage that Annie wants to do with her burst damage. And then afterwards, if he pulls you in afterwards, he just will deal more damage than you and heal up during the fight.
Right. It's that classic Swain gameplay. It doesn't matter if I'm on 20 HP if you've run out of damage. If you try and one combo this guy and you try and see, everyone's doing the math in their head, right? If you try and completely 100 to 0 him, you spend every single drop that you have on this Swain, and he's able to get, a Zhonya's off, a stopwatch off, and you run out of that burst damage, he is going to walk you down, draining his whole way through those auto attacks. And that enormous zone of control that he provides of, you gotta leave, or things aren't gonna work out too well for you, right?
Yeah, no, you are completely correct. And one person that likes to keep your arm's length as well, that is very powerful in the current meta, is going to be the Maokai.
Right, and that's also going to be another thing to look out in this draft, is see what information you can deny from the opposition with those flex picks. If you're able to grab up an early Maokai, even Lux from a couple of leagues that I'm familiar with, the Annie that we mentioned, if you're able to kind of obscure what you're looking to do and what your exact intentions are, it's a lot harder for the enemy team to play around it.
Yeah, so obscurity is a big thing, but that's just really warding as well, which is coming around the mid jungle. But I have to cut you off right now, as we are going to be finally getting ourselves into Champ Select. It's TAA versus CGC. We're going to have to see what bands are going to be coming out.
Okay, with getting our things started off, there is all of our preamble. Zath, all of our preamble. Our teams seem to be in agreement with us. That Annie will be denied. Interestingly enough, to see that denied on the side of the blue team. In my personal opinion, that can be first picked. So it seems interesting that the blue team will be taking it out of their hands, but
well, the main reason they might want to take it away is if you know how powerful it is and your team hasn't been playing around it, because maybe your mid lane or support just isn't able to make it work, it's better to just ban it away and give yourself a little bit more safety in the game.
Yeah, that would be true. If the champ pool just doesn't encompass it, then you can just accept it, scratch it off the table, and you're not constantly thinking about those problems that you're going to have if you let it slip through that draft.
Yeah, it's looking like CGC is banning away a lot of AD carries, looking like they're quite scared of Venom splits.
Right, it's kind of a very bot lane focused ban phase, I will say. The J4 seems to be a denial on the very immobile carries, things that have to flash out of that barrel. The Cataclysm will be very happy to see that one taken off the table if you're trying to play something backline like Varus.
Yeah, and talking about that, them talking about the bot lane so much, both AD carries have straight away been picked. It's looking like these teams really do know what they want to go for, as TAA have their bot lane already locked in with the Nautilus Varus.
Right, and that's once again, we're teeing this up absolutely beautifully, Zath, and the melee support coming out. The Nautilus getting a little bit more attention, a little bit of love. If I'm not mistaken, the buff on the support item has come through on this patch, so you're just getting a little bit healthier as you're trying to weave through those Renata E's, those Qs, that chip damage out of the poison.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to see how much Nautilus has been picked in the Kobo's Wins League, because most times when I cast, he's seen around.
Right. I mean, it's that every single fight, someone's getting CC'd, right? Man's got CC on every single spell and has that point and click. You don't get to play the video game button. of that depth charge. So he's
Yeah,
going to
you
be
just hear the
reliable.
dink, 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 and you just go up in the air, and next thing you know, a grey screen appears in your face. But you do have the Renata on the side of CCG to maybe give you a little bit of reach with that hand length to try and, make it where he can't get the engage off as easily.
Right. Uh, Coming through with our first three and some follow up bands. What are you thinking? Are you favoring one side or another right now?
So I'm a very big fan of simple to play comps. Comps that do their thing all together, like run in and get them killed. And that's one thing that CGC has done very well here. Having the Wukong be able to go in with the Oriana ball as well. Having the Renata to speed up, making sure that even if the Olaf goes down as well, that he's able to, revive if he gets another kill. So I would say CGC has it for me right now.
Right. And on the other side, you got Team TAA. They have a huge amount of pick from what I'm looking at. They're trying to play this map wide. You got a couple of champions that are going to be safe out in those side lanes. The Lissandra, the Gnar. Notoriously tricky to get your hands on. So we're going to be looking at the Meatball Run At You comp on the side of CGC versus the TAA. Last thoughts before we close out of this champ select?
Well, the main lane I think we have to look at is going to be the Olaf in the top lane because TA has so much CC in their comp. However, Olaf, it completely counters all of that. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to stop him from getting into the backline.
Right. And another thing that we can keep our eyes on is with Oriana Ball, they have a pair of invisibilities on the side of CGC. So if you can look to pick up that sneaky submarine play, if you're able to stick a ball on top of a cloaked Wukong, a cloaked Twitch, there are moments where Varus will not see that shockwave until he has already taken enormous amounts of burst. So I'm kind of keeping my eyes out for that, trying to see what. There seems to be a lot of tools on both sides in order to kind of weasel their own edges, right? They're able to make their own kind of inroads on this game, and like you were saying in the pre-game, put your stamp on it, right? You play your brand, get your name out there, and kind of force what you would like moving forwards.
Yeah, no, completely agree with you there. All of the champions that we're seeing here can take over the game, can leave their mark on this, and can leave their mark on Cobalt's Wins League as a whole. It's really going to be interesting to see if we're going to see any starting fights coming out in the first level.
Right, with the Nautilus, very, very likely just going to be trying to get something cheeky going with that. I'm curious to see what the runes are running. If you're running the Aftershock, maybe a bit less so, but when you have that Glacial Slow, that level 1, that's 3 pieces of CC on one champion at level 1. That's no joke, right?
Yeah, you do usually go for the Glacial Augment on the Nautilus. When you're able to hook him in, you can wait a little bit before getting the stun down because they're not able to run away when they have to slow themselves. But it's really going to come down to if this Olaf is able to get ahead from the side of CGC. Because if they get a little bit behind on the Olaf and he isn't able to run into that backline and cause absolute mayhem, it might be quite difficult for them to play these team fights.
Right, especially with... Because usually you'd want to bring a dive buddy with you. It's always safer to go in with a pal than on your own. But if Wukong tries to follow up on that dive, he doesn't have the invulnerability. He's going to be eating something. He's going to be eating the Lissandra ults, Nautilus's oodles of CC. Even the Mega Gnar is probably going to separate Olaf out from the rest of the team. I would expect.
Yeah, I'm mostly concerned from the Glacial Prism coming out from the side of Lissandra. Because if Wukong goes in, he can just instantly get stunned with the ultimate, and there's just nothing he can do. Olaf's going to be straight in that backline just by himself. And then Twitch as well, if the Nautilus is able to CC him away, or even the Lissandra himself, it's going to be a really hard fight for them.
Right. So, how are you looking at these fights to be kicked off?
Well, I'm looking for these fights to be kicked off. I'll say for both sides of what they really want to do. From the side of CGC, I'm expecting the Olaf and the Wukong to go in together with the Oriana ball on top of the Wukongs, then they can get that big wombo combo and let Olaf pick them off afterwards. But on the side of TAA, I'm expecting them to go for a little bit more of a, I guess, keeping them at arm's length, trying to poke them out before going for that hard engage right at the end, allowing your Lissandra, allowing your Varus to just poke them out before the fight even starts.
Right. And then, once we are loading in as we speak, very exciting stuff to get this thing up.
Yes, but it is looking like we will be going for a break just before the game is going to start. But don't go anywhere, as the first game is going to be kicking off in around about 2 minutes, guys. Welcome Welcome back, everybody, to the Cobalt Wins League with our first game of Season 5. It's going to be a banger here with two incredible teams. We have TAA versus CCG, and I can't cast such an astronomically important game on my own. So I have got somebody with me. Sandbag, hello again.
Hello and welcome back to the Rift. This should be an absolute doozy with tools on both sides. You really want to set your team up on the right track, right? You're trying to get your momentum going, get that train rolling. And this first game will be setting the tone for every single match, not only in this series, but in this league and in this season. So huge stakes starting this one out.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if any of the players are maybe a little bit nervous because their first game, or if they're going to come and hit the ground running. We did see a little bit of a smirk coming out from the Nautilus, a few taunts here and there, looking like it's all going to be fun and games, as Red Side's going for a little bit of an invade as the wall comes down from the Gnar.
Yeah, just a little bit of a late invade here on the side of this red team as we're poking and prodding a little bit. Gnar is able to get the ward down, so they have complete information of this happening. But they're not really going to be in a position to do much to defend it.
Yeah, it's going to be spotted out from the blue teams. They're going to be able to play accordingly. Going to have to see if Echo's going to go for the enemy blue buff to see if he can split the map in half and give his bot lane maybe a little bit more priority, maybe even a gank in the early game.
Right. Just following on from our chat inside of the pregame into that champ select. What exactly, if you had to guess where this first blood's coming from, this first action's coming from, what would your anticipations be?
Well, I would say it probably won't be coming from the mid lane because of the matchup of Lissandra and Orianna because of how safe they are. So it's either going to be in the top side or the bot side. But however, because it is a Gnar, if Gnar is able to save his E, having his dash out, I don't think it's going to be that scary itself, which only leaves one lane, which is going to be the bot lane. So it's either going to come down to this Nautilus here now hooking this early game and looking for a fight.
It's going to be a little bit of a fight coming out here in the mid lane and flashed away very deftly for this Orianna. Very quick, high efficiency gank on this Echo, able to drop that parallel convergence, and no harm, no foul, trading that one out nice and easy, flash for flash.
Yeah, but importantly so, the flash isn't going to be there. That's just a little bit.
Top lane is going to be a fight coming out. The Olaf is all inning flash away from this Gnar. Just throwing the boulder at his back. Summoners can be in the difference. A Wallop is not going to be able to be dropped. And First Blood, as telegraphed, my color caster is able to come calling his shot. Olaf is able to get First Blood here for the red team.
Yeah, but it's looking...
There is a bit of a chase down out of this Echo here. LVU's dropped. Completely on the Echo, the Z-Drive resident. I had likely assume he's going to run his way out. There it is. Ghost is able to be drawn away, but still massive play from this top laner.
Yeah, really big play coming out from the Olaf. Gnar thinking that he could re-engage and maybe get the fight off with the stun coming out from his W, but just with a hammer down from the side of Olaf. There's just nothing you can do against it again in First Blood.
Right, and even with that Wallop landing, I'm not 100% sure that they kill. Very nice stun. Sandra's going to be able to flash and set this one up. No flash, not long for the world. Picked up there for this Echo. There is bloods flowing. Everyone's a little jittery. Everyone's a little excited. I am going to be hyped for this one, Zach.
Yeah, that's the benefit of Cobalt's Wins League, is you get to have that hype, you get to have that excitement from these players. And Leica is really paying dividends for what he did in the mid lane earlier in the game. He was able to get the flash out early from the Orianna and was able to capitalize before the flash came up. So really well played from him.
Right, that's what we love to see of the jungler. Flashes, at the end of the day, aren't worth anything. So you're always going to want to be able to follow that one up and get something going. Put 300 gold in the pocket and equalize this one out.
Yeah, but Wukong is coming behind, so we're going to have to see if he's able to get anything from here. He does have flash and has not been spotted on a ward yet. So...
Blue side is pressed up quite a ways here. It's likely just going to be flashed out of the Xerath. A very nice handshake is able to stun up 2 here. A bit of a Spider-Man away from the Nautilus. He is burning with both the Ignite and the Poison, but he's not going to be dropping some return damage from this Xerath, from this... pardon me, Varus, and is able to slip out despite how far they were pressed up that lane there.
Yeah, gives a lot of priority as there's just always in this mid lane. They just keep trying to go for this Orianna, keep hunting her down. And this is the benefit of her getting that flash out early and even the kill now. This Lissandra's going to be an absolute menace in this late game.
Yeah, absolutely. They're able to just continue pressing this knife deeper and deeper and deeper here. And this only gets harder at that 6 mark when they're able to drop that prison. You can't miss that spell. So you are going to be very, very... It's hit me a
Yeah,
bit of a
but
replay coming out.
yeah, in the replay, we're going to see that the gank in the mid lane, because remember, Orianna doesn't have flash because it was got taken out in the first 5 minutes, and there's just nothing you can do when Orianna goes in, flashes as well, gets the stun, and then the combo as well with the echo, and that's just a dead Orianna in the mid lane.
Right, and very nice execution on that. Not the showiest thing in the world, but gets the job done. Clean as you like, flashing on top of her, no way to react. Can't sidestep it when it's a massive AoE around her body. So another fight going to be started here in the topside river, as there's going to be another W stun. They're going to be collapsing onto this mid laner, but the Sport is here to try and change the color of this fight. Echo is the first one to fall, but the red team is able to get another collapse here. Beautifully done, and that is a 2-for-1 for this red team.
Yeah, it was looking like it was going to go to the way of the blue team. But remember what we saw in the bot lane earlier on. We saw that they were able to get the gank off, able to get the flash out of the Nautilus and push in this way. Gave a perfect drone timer for Renata to go in, as maybe Twitch is a little bit caught out.
Gonna be a change back here on the other side. It's gonna cost him a summoner spell. That greed is going to be taxed a little bit, but not paid for in blood yet.
Yeah, but just the difference on both these teams is just that the side lanes just have more priority, so are able to help in these fights in the jungles.
Right, and that very nice support timing. It's good for the Nautilus to try and get something out, to try and get something back after the Renata was able to impact the lanes, but unfortunately not quite able to, jam that one home yet.
Yeah, but remember, Lissandra has had a lot of help in this mid lane, so hopefully she's able to push out this wave and maybe capitalize on the Twitch not having flash with a dive later on in the game.
Right. Quick check-in here on the gold across the board. It's parity for the most part, but we will be very scared for this Gnar. It's all well and good being able to, spam out those boomerangs, try and stay safe as best you can. But if one of those undertows catch you, that's kind of where my eyes would be directed immediately, as there's pretty much parity across the board. Those solo lanes are the only real difference here for the red team.
Yeah, and in the solo lanes, it's only really the top lane itself having around about a 600 gold lead. And remember, when he gets level 2, another play in the mid lane.
Another fight is going to be started here. Able to walk on out of there with the extra move speed of the Orianna ball. I'm liking this Echo, being able to constantly just keep cycling around the map, trying to get these lanes changed. Sounded like his Varus ult's not going to connect on anything. I didn't see that one on screen. Flashing in for the side of this Nautilus, then it is going to be one dead bot lane. The W is going to be able to keep him up a little bit longer. It is revived. Able to make this a 1-for-1. Rewind's going to be refilling that health bar quite tidily. Slipping on out of there, trying to get that third shot for the extra move speed. Bonk on the head on the way out. Isn't going to be able to pick up the kill. And a quick 1-for-1. I was mistaken. That W ended up meaning a huge difference. Ghost here. Another fight starting here in the top lane as the Ghost is just going to be used to run away. Does not have the health to be able to fight this. Trying to buy time for the shield if Gnar does something kind of goofy underneath the tower, but probably just going to be the end of it with forcing the Ghost and the Flash going into the prison here. Is able to get a little bit of health, but once again the support is here to change the color of this fight. 2 Flashes living on tiny HP, waiting for this hook cooldown for the Nautilus. The Glacial, the E, picked up roams on roams on roams here in this game.
I don't even know where to begin to start analyzing what happened there. What the hell is this season going to be if this is just the first game?
It is going to be hype, is what it's going to be, Zach.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. We were singing the praises for Leica on this Echo with how much roaming he's been doing, with how much damage he's been able to, pour into these lanes, how much priority. But talking about that as well, Zench as well is going everywhere, and it's just fight after fight after fight. And after finishing this, there's only a 0.3k gold lead on the side of blue team. There's nothing in it.
These absolute blow for blow. This is going to be one of those, those heavyweight boxing matches where no one's dodging, no one's trying to cover up play for the decision. It's just haymaker after haymaker, punch after counter punch. This is what we love to see.
Yeah, I think that's the best type of boxing, where you don't even try and go for defensive play. You are there to kill and to kill and to get yourself a lead your way. And that's what we talked before about what this league is. This league is there for these players to really show how good they are individually, to show their mechanics off. And that's really what we're seeing here.
Right. And again, right like we expected, another one of these little roams slipping out, kind of skulking around here in the topside bush, but there are both junglers here. The Undertow is going to be able to catch, but the resistances doesn't even matter. He is just popped immediately. Completely underestimated the damage out of this Olaf. And you don't really need defensive stats, all those armor and MR, if you just put the guy in the dirt.
Yeah, completely true. But the thing is, Leica was trying to go for the fight in the top lane, but he didn't see that Sench was there.
Root connects. It's going to be followed up here with the hostile takeover, flashing away. The Nautilus ult is going to be able to pick up one, but able to just slip on out of here for this rat. A couple more ultimates traded, but not a huge amount to do about the whole thing.
I mean, the main thing you have to look at is the flash coming out from the Renata, making her a lot easier to get. If he's able to find a depth charge or even a hook onto her, she's just dead.
Right. Another claw here in the mid lane. A very nice stun. Immediately going to be able to drop that ult on top of him. Slipping out, burning, but is not going to quite be enough in the bot lane. Whoa, okay, we're going to have to go back and take a look at this one. Right as we're talking the safety of the Renata, we got to be looking at the safety of this blue team here. Pushing their lead just a little too far.
Yeah, no, we always expect when you have a Nautilus they will winning these early game fights, but if Twitch is able to get enough of his poison stacks onto you, and that's what Renata allows him to do. Renata allows him to survive just a little bit longer than usual.
Getting him to get able to grab one here in the mid lane, catching him backing in a little bit unsafe of a spot. Should be a 1-for-1 pretty quickly here. One more E, there it is, and a shutdown. Thank you very much. What do you reckon? Worth? Not worth?
I would say most likely not worth, because it's not even like she was missing many minions in the mid lane anyway. But it depends. If you think that you are going to be stronger with the kill yourself, then I would say it would be worth.
Trying to take the gold into your hands. I personally, I don't think it was a very nice cover from the Echo. A nice idea, but the Echo covered it beautifully and it was there for the able to follow up.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time in the game there is a sustainable gold lead with 4 more kills on the side of the red team, as they do have themselves around about a 2.5k gold lead.
Right. So, what's next? What's as we have a bit of a lull in the action, what do you reckon is going to be our next port of call? Is going to be these objectives? Are we going to just be throwing hands to throw hands? What are your anticipations?
I'm not going to lie, I'm feeling like everybody is a bit jittery and it's just going to be going for the fight after fight after fight. As it's looking like Echo just keeps going for this mid lane.
Another mid lane play here. Is another root's going to land. Flashing away is going to be able to get him out of that Echo W. No worries at all. But again, that flash, as soon as it comes up, is being taxed once again.
Yeah, there's just not much Orianna can do when they just keep focusing her down so much. But to continue my point beforehand, I am expecting them to go for these dragons, most likely, because remember, on the side of the red team, they are a lot more of a team fight comp. And when the team fight comp is able to fight around these objectives, this is where they're most powerful.
Just keeping our eyes on the handshake. Probably going to have to flash out from the Nautilus. There it is. Nice and easy. Nothing to be had there.
Yeah, it was good that he saved it as long as possible, because maybe they thought that a team was behind him and he could get out. So it was well played by him, just a little bit of a misposition.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times if you are able to be that front line, you can bluff it a lot of times. If they have no vision behind you, they haven't done their due diligence. If you stand there like, I could be alone and caught out, or I could be baiting this one out, you're going to be pretty hesitant to drop your spells on the Nautilus, of all people.
Yeah, no, because if you use it all on them and not onto the Varus, you leave the Varus for slightly too long, he will rip your whole entire HP bar apart. As Rift Herald is going to be placed to the mid lane, trying to get a little bit more gold on this Orianna that has just not been able to do much in this lane, as it's been ganking so much.
Alright, now we're going to be setting up for another dragon fight, though. This is going to be dropped very quickly for the red team, and nothing really to be had. Rewinding on out. No harm, no foul. Very nice smite. And I think the blue team just slightly underestimating how quickly you can burn that one down with the E-pop from the Twitch, plus the other damage being poured in.
Yeah, also have a priority in the mid lane and bot lanes. They needed to push that out before thinking of anything else. As top lane fight.
Top lane fights can be kicking off here. Undertow lands, another Ragnarok being popped, going to be trying to dive onto that turret. The ult runs out for the Viking, grabs up his wave in a very nice counter there. He knows he's dead, trying to grab as much of the wave as possible. A tiny little 1-for-1 there in the top lane.
Yeah, 500 gold shot down, going over to the Mega Narf, making the next fight go a lot more into his favor.
And good patience from that Gnar, holding that Mega, holding it right until the very tail end of that Ragnarok. Was able to get him. Because if you get a little jittery like you were mentioning, and you slam that early, you don't have the CC to hold him under that turret, and he's able to just waltz on out of there. So good patience and good nerves from this Gnar.
Talking about patience, this Wukong has been in this bot lane for around about 60 seconds already and has gained nothing from it. As Echo's on the opposite side of the map, just trying to get farm, trying to do anything himself. So Wukong's really losing a lot here.
Right. Even just constantly trying to fish for just a little bit more, a little bit more. Every time that they walk up, they're teasing him. They're trying to just... I don't even think they had a word on that they were trying to bait it. It just ended up playing at a perfect, respectable distance where they can look to make their own plays, but they're never in any danger.
Yeah, one thing I do find interesting is just how much this Echo is around this mid lane. So Orianna stepping up a little bit too far.
Able to, not the loot route, it's not going to be able to land here, and she's able to get her own move speed buff. Is going to be very dead very quickly, if I'm not mistaken. Never mind, turned around here quickly with the hostile takeover, and they just brought more men to the party. Very nicely done. The ult from the Wukong is being able to get two, and I think they, like me, got just a little bit lackadaisical, thinking, oh, this one's a freebie, I'll just hold my cooldowns, wait till the next rotation is up, and they baited both blue team as well as the caster, thinking it was going to be an easier pickup than it ended up being.
Yeah, they just didn't have the damage to burst her fast enough because of Renata coming in. As the replay's coming in right now.
Take another look at this one here. What do you think went wrong here for the blue team? Because it looked so good initially.
They just weren't able to burst it down. They just weren't expecting the Renata to come out and give herself or give the mid laner a second life because they were expecting to get the kill and get out. But it just didn't seem to go their way.
And Renata, the W didn't end up proccing. They didn't drop her one way or another. So
Damn.
It was just the R was enough to just dissuade them and get them fighting amongst themselves. Another fight here slowly. Very deft little sidestep from the Nautilus, putting the Glacial down, trying to soak up as much damage as he can. Another TP is going to be followed. Everybody's joining the party. Huge bash here in the mid lane. Nautilus ult is going to be dropped here, and there's already one dropping. This is a big wipe on the side of the blue team. Able to get two already. Shockwave is enough to deny any sort of follow-up clause. Likely going to be taken here. Another prison is going to be dropped. Followed up with the Orianna's death. We're still going underneath this turret, soaking tower shot after tower shot, and is able to live on a sliver of HP. This Gnar. Lovely stuff. Blue team is able to come up big.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about is why they thought they were able to take this fight in the mid lane. I'm guessing they were expecting both TPs not to come instantly out. But remember, Twitch is such a huge part of their team fights, and he just wasn't there. He was in the bot lane this whole entire time as the depth charge does hit onto the main carry of Orianna, and there's just nothing she can do. No damage. And a 4-man shockwave, sorry, a 3-man, it just isn't enough. When you're already losing the fight this hard, there's just nothing you can do. As Twitch is just farming in the bot lane.
I think that if I had to diagnose the problem, I don't think red team noticed that blue ward so far up the lane. If they were able to kind of back up towards their turrets, not through anybody, they could have just made the exit, hit their shockwave, and life is good. But I believe that second TP being further up the lane caught them just a couple of seconds away from their turret. So they thought they could just get the trade and get back, but lovely warding here seems to give the perfect TP ward on the blue team side.
Yeah, and it was an instant snap decision, being like, we are taking this fight, we are re-engaging from the blue team, which was able to get themselves the win.
You could basically hear the comms from here of, we're looking, and then two TPs drop pretty much in sync of one another, which is always a great sign, especially for day one. Already having that synergy and that chemistry is says good things on the side of
Quick thing,
here.
we need to take a look at whether Olaf is in the bot tribush. Look at him, he has not been spotted yet.
here on the flank, is able to drop that first Q. He's completely alone, so there's a little bit of danger of him being able to be dropped by himself. Ult is going to be able to CC him right at the tail end of this Ragnarok. He is still not dropping yet. Eventually is going to be felled, but the Echo is also going to be dropped here. A nice little ult is going to be dropped from this Twitch, picking up one on the back with the flashover. And the flank is good, but when there's no collapse, it's a little scary. Flash is pops, last shot. Not going to happen.
Yeah,
And
there is a
fight. Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to amount to a huge play.
Yeah, Mega Knight was, well, when he was Mega Knight, he did try and go for a flash ultimate onto the Orianna, but just barely misses the wall, allowing the Orianna to escape and re-engage and almost getting chunked out. But what a fight that was. Olaf coming in clutch, hiding behind the enemy team, being able to get the flash out from the Varus, and then allowing the Twitch afterwards to just open up because there was just nothing the enemy team could do.
All right, break this one down for us, Zath. The Olaf by himself isolated.
Yeah, Olaf is just able to just do so much. He's able to get a lot of the ultimates out from the blue team, allowing the Wukong to re-engage, allowing the Twitch to open up, and then Twitch just flashing over and just cleaning house with the enemy team. And while this all happened, remember, their TPs are down from the side of the blue team, so Nar wasn't even able to join the fight.
Right. Oh, during that replay, we were not privy to the Orianna getting herself picked off. Eventually, that Nar got what he wanted, even if it was delayed, is able to grab up an extra. I'm not quite sure how that one happened. Did you catch what happened there, Zaf?
No, I did not. I'm just guessing it was them just going for a fight. He was able to outplay her, was able to get the kill. But it's looking like it's all going to be focused around this Baron. It's all about getting the vision, pushing it up, and trying to find a pick on the enemy team.
Okay, this Herald is going to be summoned quite a ways away. It's not likely to be getting a crash anytime soon. It's able to just get that first one up. You hear the Twitch ult being... Twitch ult is popped here in the mid lane. Zhonya's is going to be able to delay a couple more seconds. Able to get a root out, but not much more with that flash. Bit of an optimistic play, and blue team is just going to try and go off to the races here. Extra speed from that passive. Sweeper is able to catch the rat even in his stealth and pop a second one. Lovely chaining of that echo passive, all that extra move speed, that Z drive resonance. Able to follow up a second one with the sweeper going. Very tidy play out of this echo.
Yeah, it was a really good attempt from the red team. Trying to go for that mid lane tower, but was just a little bit too optimistic about it. Not, well, underestimating the Lissandra damage, and then the enemy team being able to come and get behind them. The only reason Lissandra flashed forward in that play was to allow the depth charge to come in afterwards.
Right, the follow-up was there. Even if she sacks her life for it, that was a martyr's death, able to get 2 on the back of it. Ult is going to be able to be dropped here. There looks like a Baron fight is going to be started. Nautilus ult coming out here. Everyone is just kind of ignoring the Baron temporarily. Echo is being shut down temporarily. Pardon me, I had a service drop there. That was my apologies. And
it's
that
all
is
good.
going to be... Hey, you go.
It looks like Olaf just absolutely took over that fight. His health bar kept staying around about 2/3 HP, and there was just nothing the enemy team could do. Because if you do not focus that player down and allow him to just be in the carnage of it, he will absolutely take over, as the gold lead has ballooned up to around about 6k. As in the replay, we can see what really happened. As Nar tried to jump over the wall, trying to get a big Mega Knight ult, but now he's just out of position. There's nobody able to stop this Ragnarok from just dealing its damage, from him just taking over this fight. 1 down, 2 down. He gets the 3rd and the 4th, but there's just nothing blue team can do.
And very quickly, red team is able to take what was a fairly close game of punches back and forth with plays on either side, and they are wearing purple happy out.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. Now it is going to be a Baron push from the red team. I'm expecting around about a 1-3-1 coming out, or maybe even a 1-4. It's depending on what they want.
And you're just trying to split that pressure as many lanes as you can, try and get as many of those crashing at the same time.
Yeah, because the amount of pressure points you can have on the enemy team spreads them so thin that you're able to get those picks, you're able to get anything. And it is looking like they are going to be going for a 1-4 instead, having one person push in the mid lane and having 4 in the bot.
And Well, again, anticipations. What are we before it happens? What are we looking for here? Where are our eyes drawn to?
Well, with our eyes drawn, it's going to be if they're able to find a pick on the enemy team. Lysandra tried to go for something there, but isn't able to pay it off. Olaf as well is going to try and look to be in this back line because you see him in this bot lane. He has not been spotted out yet.
Just trying to press that lane, and you're trying to, it's textbook, right? You're trying to press out those lanes, get that priority, force your vision in. Stood in the middle of 3. Handshake is able to catch here. Everyone kind of grouping up very closely. It's very scary for the Shockwave. A nice ult at the top of the things from Renata is going to be able to wipe this. But free firing Twitch on the back lines cleans this one up very tidy. Throw up the mastery. Life is good on the side of this red team.
Yeah, the blue team just wasn't able to find the engage they needed. Lysandra tried to look earlier in the fight, wasn't able to find it. Then we see the Nautilus try and engage, but there's just nothing they can do. By the time they were able to get the engage off, there's just nothing they could do, like I said before. Because here we can see Lyca, we can see the Nautilus just hiding in the bush, maybe looking for something at all, but their team isn't close enough. The hook doesn't land, allowing the Wukong to re-engage, allowing him to keep the enemy team at arm's length, having the Olaf in the backline dealing his damage. And when they finally do engage, the Renata's there to keep the AD carry perfectly safe, making it a 5-0.
And able to lay that red carpet down for the Twitch to walk right over this blue team. Lovely stuff. Once again, martyrs seem to be the theme of the day. You seem to get the pick either on the Lysandra, on the Renata, but you will pay for it with your lives.
Yeah, but that's the thing of it being the first game of the season is everybody isn't always on the exact same page. So sometimes you have a person that wants to instantly go in and then the other player is just slightly behind. So as this season goes on, we're expecting these teams to get better at this. A lot less mistakes coming out from them.
You see flashes of it, right? You see flashes of it, like in that mid lane fight with the blue team, those synced up TPs. So you know they're capable of it. You know that they're going to have that in the tank, but it's just a matter of getting that consistency down, even if the synergy is there from time to time.
Yeah, because we see brilliance coming out from these players. It's just sometimes there are a few mistakes coming out, but the red team are in a commanding position of this game, being over 10k in the lead. There's going to have to be a big comeback coming out from the blue side if they want to get back into this.
That was exactly going to be my question. If you're on the blue team, you're staring down the battle of a 10k gold lead. You've already lost a couple of team fights. What is your best chance back in if you're going for one of these Hail Mary plays?
Well,
like
Hail Mary plays are all about the picks. It's all about getting yourself to the position where you're able to pick someone off. Like Lysandra keeps trying on this Twitch, keeps trying to find him on his lonesome, so they're able to pick him off and get themselves into a favorable fight of a 4v5.
And for the red team, you're just going to be applying that pressure, slowly grinding them out, taking jungles, moving up wards, taking minions, moving up wards, just try and slowly close those hands around them.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing here. We haven't seen a single blue team member leave the base in a very long time, as these minion waves are just crashing in deeper and deeper into the enemy team.
And just slowly pressing forwards until eventually, if you're on the side of this blue team, you either gotta swing or go quietly. And so we're likely to see a swing here for this blue team. Try something. Try for one of those picks like you were mentioning.
Yeah, the scary thing is if you swing and miss, you are going to have the whole entire game ended on you in a blink of an eye. So you've got to make sure that the next fight is going to be a powerful one. As it is looking like both teams are just going to be clearing the waves. We do have Baron coming up in around about a minute and a half. So that is going to be the big thing that's going to get contested next.
So if you're on the side of this blue team, try and look to make it a lopsided fight. I'm liking what they're doing and trying to stack up and trying to catch somebody out of position. You're just going for any little gasp that you have. A very nice Renata ult's going to be able to catch 3 and get them fighting amongst themselves. Varus is able to live, but he is forced from this fight, not able to contribute. And without their main DPS on the side of the blue team, red team will run them down. Gnar is able to get 2 into the wall, but it is too little, too late. Red team is able to close the door here. A very nice little Echo. He's trying to squeeze out as many of those minions, trying to hold them at bay, but I'm pretty sure with their one well-paid, well-compensated super, Nautilus ult is able to be dropped and get the Glacial going. but it is likely going to be the finishing touches put on this game by the red team.
Yeah, just
And
finishing off the final kills in this, and it's looking like the time of CCG is upon us if they do take the first game of the series.
very, very interesting game to break down in that everybody was making plays early on. That could have honestly gone either way, in my opinion. It didn't seem to be an absolute shellacking, despite what this KDA and the scoreboard would say. I think there was some kind of some moments, right? There were a couple of big moments on either side.
Yeah, no, some big plays coming out for both teams, but I would have to say it was all around having the priority in the top and bot lane from the side of CCG and the red team. Because when they had the priority on the Olaf and on the Renata and the Twitch, they were able to make the plays in the mid jungle, and they were able to come and make it a lopsided fight, and they just pushed it from there and kept going until they were just so far ahead that the blue team couldn't do anything.
Right. And very, very impressive, honestly. To have your very first showing on the stage be as entertaining and as, moment filled with plays on either side. Especially props over to this Echo. It seemed like he was running the early game, forcing that Ori cooldown over and over and over again. But congratulations to the red team taking game 1.
Yeah, very well played to them. Now, the big thing was, with Echo focusing this mid lane, he was able to get a lot out of it. However, his just side lanes, there was just nothing they could do. The Wukong was there 24/7. And then when he finally wanted to come later on in the game, they were just too far behind. Meaning that whenever he did go for these plays, they just couldn't win them.
Exactly, and that was going to be the follow-up. I'm so glad we're on the same page here of it was running the early game, but 1 does not beat 3, and when both the sides, you invest every single one of your eggs in that Orianna basket, all it takes is 1 trip, and all of those eggs come crashing down around you, and happy, happy days for this red team able to shut that down, that Ori.
Yeah, there was one prop I did want to give to the Orianna, was able to keep up with the gold and was able to get a big gold lead by the end of the game, having around about 80 more CS than the Lissandra, even with so many ganks in the early game.
And being able to put herself in positions where all it took was a flash. All it took, it wasn't a death most of the time. It was able to respect, sit back, grab up as much farm as you can, and flash out when you're pressured, and just soak. That's that pressure release, right? Just soak as much as you can.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to say that Orianna did do very well in that side. But we are going to go for a small break, as we do need a little bit of a refreshment, maybe a tea, maybe something else. But do not go anywhere. Both of these teams have shown the power they have, and any team can take the next game. We'll see you in 5 minutes, guys.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you got your snacks, your drinks, your refreshments, because we are in for another one. Another, gripping and exciting installment of this Cobalt Wins League. So I was everything that I hoped for and more for this first game. What'd you think, Zeth?
I completely agree with you there. It was an absolute bloodbath. Everybody was trying to prove themselves in that first game. Everybody was going for the outplay. Nobody was trying to go for the safe play, and that is my favorite type of League of Legends.
Absolutely. Everyone pushing the envelope. We got two people on 200 HP in the top lane with the Gnar and the Viking staring at each other. Who's going to back down? Who's going to try and, whose will fade first? And just all the way to the death, coming down to a single W on one side or an undertow on the other. It's just, this is what we love to see. This is the excitement. This is the energy that we want to set this thing off on.
Yeah, with that last game, it could have swung either way. If somebody just missed one ability, that game could have easily gone to the enemy team. But yeah, in our next game, we're going to be interested to see what the picks and bans are going to be.
Yeah, I assume the bans are going to be quite similar. It didn't feel like, to me personally, like anything was the reason that the blue team was put away. I mean, like, yeah, you had huge plays on the Twitch, you had big shockwaves, but I feel like you find those outlets regardless of if you're on any of those control mages, if you're on any marksman. Pumping damage is still pumping damage. There wasn't seem to be any major issues taking some of the like J4s and Annies in the bans. I can imagine will stick around, especially if they are known players on either side of those teams.
Yeah, I don't think any of the picks that CCG brought out were just too big of a deal from the side of TAA to deal with, except for maybe the Olaf. I would probably expect them to ban the Olaf in the first three, because he was an absolute menace in these team fights.
Even though that would then open the door to something like a Jack, something like a Cassante that's going to do a similar role.
Now, the only thing that you can do with the Jacks is because the playstyle that TAA had was they wanted to find the picks, they wanted to CC you for so long that there was nothing you could do against them. And that's the thing that Olaf counters. He's able to stop that CC from affecting him with the Ragnarok, allowing him to do his thing. Because in this fight here, imagine it was any other Bruiser champion, he would have easily been taken out by now.
Absolutely
locked up
true.
and stunned.
Is able to just kind of break that chain. The weakest part of your chain is the first one to give, and if you're able to just tie up, especially on a flank, if you tie up the flanker, congratulations, you've won yourself a 4v5. So I suppose you're right in that regard. The Ragnarok did seem to be the difference maker in a couple of those fights.
But no, except for that, I think if TA do the same playstyle they had before and are able to find a few more picks in that early game, they can take over the game and really get themselves a big standing fight in the next game.
Right. And especially for TAA, they had, I mean, arguably more synergy, where they were playing as a team quite nicely. It's a bit trickier to play these kind of split heavy 1-3-3 comps so tidily with the TPs coming through, with the combinations, as opposed to I walked up and pressed all of my buttons. So maybe a little bit more out of that out of TAA, a couple more things swinging their way, and they would have been good as gold.
Yeah, but TAA, like you said before, about the synergy with the double TP, they do seem to be on the same wavelength. It's just the plays they are making just weren't the right ones in the last game. Because sometimes they get a little bit overextended, or they put their priorities in the lane that they don't think should be the most important. Because they were trying to get this Orianna behind for the whole entire game, even though Orianna was able to soak up all of the damage and only die around about 2 times in the early game.
Right. It's the double-edged sword of synergy, right? If it's the right call and all 5 of you are in immediately, you are happy as Larry. But if it's the wrong call and 5 of you commit, instead of, oh, my support got picked off, or, oh, my top laner got caught, it's, we got aced. So you're going to be punished so heavily for doubling down on a bad play, just as your rewards are so much better on doubling down on a good play.
Yeah, but with League of Legends as a whole, it is more worth to make the bad play than not make a play at all. Because you don't know the mistakes you're going to make if you don't at least attempt them. And that is what we like to see coming out from TAA, is they made the mistakes before, so they won't remake them again. Because when they start honing their playstyle even more and more, less mistakes are going to come out, and you're going to start seeing them run away with the game.
Absolutely. And I think it's pretty safe to say you can see enormous potential on both of these sides. Yes, there were some jitters. Yes, it was a little messy from time to time of people getting caught or people, mis-executing on fights, but everyone is there and ready to duke it out. And I think that killer instinct is maybe the most exciting part of the fights. It's that everyone's pressing every single inch and every single bit of advantage that they possibly can out of these fights.
Yeah, but that's kind of a byproduct of these people being plat to diamond. It has people who are so close to reaching that echelon of really not making that many mistakes, getting to that proper professional level. This is just slightly underneath, so this allows these players to make the mistakes here, make the mistakes now, so when they do become the best form of themselves, they can just take over the rift.
Right. And, yeah, I guess potential is the big word. It's exciting. There's energy, right? I can feel it. I hope you can feel this one too, Zach. You can feel this. All right, now we got ourselves an underdog. Let's see if we can equalize this one out real quick.
Yeah, and even saying an underdog is an absolute insult to TAA. They were clearly in this game for around about, well, I would say 90% of this game, there was a clear chance of TAA taking it back. It was only the last 10% of the game where it looked like they were running away with it from the side of CCG.
That is very true. I don't mean to say underdog in the sense of, you got absolutely steamrolled. I just mean you got beat just past the post. You're going to want that revenge. You're going to want to go, nah. Let's have one more look at this. Let's set this score right.
It's like in solo queue when somebody's like 1v1 me, bro. The jungler was the older difference in that game.
Exactly. It's like you can't get that honorable supportal combat. Just let Jenna and Yumi auto it out here. And someone obviously gotta sway that one way or another. And like even just on the replays as we're cycling through these highlights, health bars are blinking low, dangerously low over and over. So a couple of extra CS here, a couple of landed skills there, and this fight looks so different. And, it's the butterfly effect, right? A butterfly, just a couple of wing beats different, can redirect tornadoes and clouds because one knocks off of two, knocks off of four, and pretty soon, this game is nothing like what we just watched.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. It's all about that butterfly effect. But in this game, it's going to be interesting to see what these players are going to pick, what these players are going to ban, because I'm expecting not that much of a difference coming out in this game. I'm expecting around about the same team comps to come out, because even when TAA lost, they looked very deadly when they were able to make the team comp work.
Absolutely. And the styles seem to suit. Even more than any individual piece, the styles really seem to suit of the meatball run at you, Olaf yelling and screaming, beating you over the head, Wukong beating you over the head, versus the kind of a bit more refined, a little bit like more in and out. Yeah, a bit more classy, right? That's a good word for it. A little bit more refined, more classy.
Yeah, that's the difference between these teams. We have one that wants to get down and dirty and in your face, while the other one's trying to be a little bit more refined with their palate. Trying to, taste it out, trying to see how it is before they go in for the final bite and kill you.
With that being said, there are no slouches when you get in their face. They are equally willing to throw hands. Even if they're not starting the fights, they are down to try and fight back and swing away with those hands for you.
Yeah, but that's the funnest part of this league is hopefully in most of the games they're going to end up like this, not in just, one-way turns where you're like, this team is clearly going to win. Because remember, CCG is new to this league. They're a brand new team that we have never seen before. So it's really interesting to see that they are able to, come and fight the veterans of the league.
Right, and putting on a show here for us. Like we were saying, we've said it 100 different ways, 100 different times. It was close. Like even all the way down to this, and auto in the difference. The wallop, this wallop lands versus the last one that didn't in the 1v1 at level 3 or no, I can't remember exactly when the Meganar, the 1v1 happened. It's inches, razor fine margins here in the difference.
Yeah, but that's the fun part of this league. But we are going to be getting into draft very, very shortly. We're just waiting on one more player from the blue team to come, to the game. And this is the usual thing we have in league. How many times have you casted the game and you have to wait on one player to come?
There's always one. Every single time. There's always somebody. It's a bathroom break, or they spill something, or, there's a million different reasons that someone will be dipping out. So we'll be able to patch this one up shortly. It's never too long a delay. This isn't the Riot Games pause special of every single moment there's some bug, some problem, some pause, some audio issue. It's usually comes together pretty tidily once it's out of the bathroom break or what have you.
I'm actually quite curious on what the longest break has ever been on the LEC stage. I'm guessing around about an hour?
As an American, right, the LCS quite literally had to send people home because the delay was so long. So I'm not entirely sure what the LCS record is, but I know that the entire day just got thrown out in the LCS at some point in this split.
Yeah, are you a big fan of the LCS then?
I would be. I would keep up with both, so I'd be able to, have the Reckless on some days and have the Prince on the others. I'm an old guard C9 fan, so I've been around since season 4 or so, season 3, season 4. So I would be able to keep up with both of these. And as much as they're both Western teams and everyone's always, NA versus EU, etc., it is really interesting to see the differences between the leagues of priority picks on one side might not even show up in the others. Like, we're cranking out Sejuani mids over in the LEC, where an LCS player wouldn't be even considering that one. Or Zax.
I feel like the best way to describe LCS is a little bit more rigid, a little bit more formal in the way they play the game. They look at other regions and they're like, okay, if this is going to be a usual comp, we would just always pick Corki and the Zir. Compared to like players in the LEC where we have players like Caps that want to get those counter picks, they'll pick the stuff like Sejuani's, like the Pike Migs, like anything they can to get themselves a slight edge and change the game up a bit.
Yeah, the word that I always say is rigid, it's stiff, right? Where there's a little bit less of the crazy dynamics of this will either set me so far ahead in the game that I will win this outright with a pick, your Kane mids or something ridiculous, or we will go 0-15 and we will next this. There's a little bit of kind of aversion to that style in the LCS. It's almost kind of a little bit more reserved, a little bit more stiff and rigid, I suppose.
Yeah, it seems like they don't want to learn new stuff as much as other leagues. But talking about leagues and having them have different playstyles and different things to play, both of them have nothing compared to the Cobalt Wins leagues, where every single team has their own special picks, it's their own play styles. Like for me, for example, when I used to play in leagues myself, I was a Bard main. You never see Bards around anymore, but I will always pick it whenever I can.
Absolutely love the Bard pick. You got Chime out here. Well, speaking of dynamic players, Bard is that I will go 0-15 or I will team fight my only damage source and ult him on accident. So
sorry, would we like to rephrase that? We will go 0-15, then we will kill their enemy AD carry, then we'll get a 4-man ultimate to win our guys the game, and say GGEs, we're the best.
Sup diff smiley face. No one remembers the grief ults. They only remember the big ones.
Well, at least I do. But talking about big things that happen, we are finally into Champ Select on Game Patch 13.4 with CGC versus TAA.
Very excited to see with this swap, the red side now being able to have the counter picks if TAA is able to squeeze just a little bit more out of this draft. Bans, GP immediately taken off the table, Lulu. The Annie, J4, etc. from last ban's phase, likely to come on through.
Yeah, it's looking like the Edgel is going to get banned out again. Still scared of Venom's flicks with the damage. But in the last game, I don't think he was able to get too much off until later in the game. And even on a champion that wasn't meant to be that scary in the early game of the Twitch.
Yeah, it was more the supports. I mean, there's the huge argument of support is really like the carry in the bot lane because they have all the influence. Kindred band here coming out. Can you tell us, do you know anything a little bit about that? Has Kindred been played much on the side of Corneria here?
Well, Corneria did play it back in Season 2 a little bit, but I'm not too sure if it is going to be one of the main champs. But he did also play it last season, I have heard as well, as the instant lock Rakan Xayah.
Love that. That's a gauntlet being thrown right there. We were talking about playmaking. The Xayah Rakan will playmake constantly. Followed up, although I personally really like the Leona into it. If you're able to just stuff him with the Q going by, you can buffer it. Doesn't matter how fast you're running. You get in range of that Q, you will eat that stun from that Leona.
Yeah, and if you're fast enough, you're able to stop the knock-up from the Rakan. But Rakan, if he plays it correctly, is able to be just slightly outside of your auto-attack range, allowing him to not get there. But it's looking like Team TAA is looking for this hard engage. Because remember, like we said before, they have the synergy, just their last team comp was a little bit too difficult to, make work. So they've come back to the drawing board and thought, what is the easiest way to do this? Hard engage, good damage, and kill them fast.
And I am very pleased to see this J4 that was banned out last game. If we're talking about people who are going to try and go in, make plays, do their own thing, put that mark on the game, J4 is the champ to do that.
Yeah, now we do have the Renekton coming out, can be swapped to this middle top lane, but with the ADC coming out, is looking like Renekton will be heading to the top lane against an Irelia.
Yeah, there is still some flexibility between the Triss Twitch. I'm curious to hear your thoughts if you reckon it's going to be that Twitch mid roaming all over the place, or if it's going to be the Triss mid kind of trying to force a little bit more damage, a little bit more turret damage, specifically with that E.
So, if we think about the lane phase in the bot lane of the Rakan Xayah versus a Leona Tristana, if Rakan goes in and isn't able to get himself straight back out, Tristana is able to get the bomb down and get huge damage on him, or even on top of that can go onto the Xayah himself. But the problem is, I don't think that's really the play you want to do, because when Xayah is able to stun you up and keep you at arm's length, that is going to be a very scary lane to go against. So I'm expecting CGC to have the Twitch in the bot lane and the Tristana in mid.
Right, just trying to pick up that farm, trying to kind of play it like last game, eventually becoming that force to be reckoned with and becoming that menace, kind of always lurking around in those shadows, stealthing around constantly.
Yeah, one interesting thing is CGC does not have any AD damage. The only way possible for them to have that is going to be Twitch going AP. So, most likely we might have an AP Twitch here.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering, if the mid Twitch might actually be able to work in that constantly roaming around, stacking up those poison stacks and popping somebody with an E. You're going to be pretty lacking on it, and Jarvan will be quite happy to just jam himself full of those health, that AD, and that armor. That's his favorite stats in the world.
Yeah, it is going to be a bit strange of a playstyle to play against it, because most people are not used to going against a Twitch player. So then if you're slightly out of position, if you step maybe a bit into the fog of war where you don't know where he is and he's in that bush, he is just going to ult you and he's going to chunk you out, or maybe even kill you if far enough ahead.
Right. And then on the other sides, Silas. We haven't really mentioned him. He slipped through the draft a little bit. Ults to be taken. Leona, and that's really your scariest tool, I would say.
Yeah, all the Renekton ult does is give you a little bit more HP and an aura around you that deals damage. Maybe the Wukong ultimate, because you do get a double use out of that. So there's only 2 good ultimates he can take.
Yeah, it seems pretty slim pickings on this Silas, so we're going to have to keep an eye on the cooldown for this Leona, because you're not really, it's always nice to have an ultimate over not having an ultimate, but you can't compare Cataclysm to, a AP Buster Shot. Doesn't quite have the same punch to it, if you will, pun intended.
Yeah, it's seeming like both TAA and CGC are going again for proving themselves one-on-one against the enemy team, because all of the champions in this game have damage, have ways to affect this game.
Right. So, in terms of anticipation, Zyrokan probably going to exert their will in the bot lane here. It's very hard to match that early push, that early pressure. So, TAA is looking good up there. What do we think? As far as I'm aware, Renekton runs the Aurelia matchup relatively well.
Yeah, but remember,
correct?
if I would say most likely so, Aurelia needs to try and stun him up and then get a little bit of damage off and dash out. Because if Renekton's able to get an empowered W onto Aurelia and then dash after her and get the Q off, it is just going to be a win from the Renekton side. So it could be interesting to see if he's going to be going for that. The only other lane that's going to be interesting is going to be this mid lane matchup, if it is going to be the Twitch or the Tristana in the mid lane.
Absolutely. And so, in just one moment, we are going to be dipping off to the Summoner's Rift. So don't go anywhere, don't touch those dials, and we will see you in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cobalt Wins League. We got Game 2 kicking off here after a performance was put on in Game 1 with these two teams duking it out, CCG, TAA. Absolute bloodbath early game, and then reeled in a little bit, all the way back to this a little bit more refined, a little bit more pick your moments, pick your spots, pick your battlegrounds, and then throw down over those objectives. So we're trying to keep that energy up, trying to keep this enjoyment. Pretty much a normal 5-point start here on both sides. No one trying to go for anything cheeky, no late invades like the last game, and trying to just redeem, trying to put the finishing touches on this sweep on one side versus trying to even this one out here. A lot to play for to set up this season, and honestly, is that everything that we hoped for and more.
I couldn't agree with you more. That last game was incredible to cast. Something was happening every 30 seconds. The only major things that happen in the game so far is just there is going to be a red ward on the Raptors to check if the enemy is going to be going for a late invade. So it gives him good vision on that. And then the blue team having one in the bush in the waterway on the top side. So nothing really so far to happen. Quite surprising for these two teams.
Yeah, after an absolute circus fight last game, I think some of the jitters have settled down. They were able to have a little bit of a chat in the break in between the two games, and I expect to see a little bit less jitters, a little bit less constant fighting, scrapping it out, but hopefully it doesn't settle down into some 30-minute farm fest.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be maybe a little bit more peaceful for this game. But when you have a Renekton and Irelia in the top lane, one player is going to hard dominate that lane sooner or later.
I was gonna say peaceful might be a bit of a stretch to say peaceful when we got Triss mid, we got double melee topside already fighting, constantly going off here. Ignite's gonna be dropped for this Aurelia, going for a bit of a chunk, not likely to finish him off, but already peaceful is gone flying out the window as we have an engage in the top lane here.
Yeah, Renekton was trying to get the level 2 first, which he was able to grab. So then he did go for the engage. But after his engage is there, he has nothing left because Irelia is able to stack up her passive. And then she just deals way too much damage on her auto attack, making sure that Renekton had to flash out afterwards.
Dashing forward for the Aurelia, there is a Wukong here lurking around in these bushes. They're able to dash forwards here, flash out, very nice stun, and getting the sums on cooldown is this jungler.
Yeah, remember, there is no Ignite on the, Ignite or Flash on the top of Irelia.
Pressing forwards, he's going to be in a 1v2 very quickly. If he fights this Jarvan for much longer, Aurelia is here to collapse on him. Wukong will likely win this 1v1, but he is shortly being reinforced with this Aurelia. Very low health bars on both sides, but Renekton is being able to pick up the first blood. Tristan is also here to join the party, flash away from this Jarvan. And once again, peaceful ain't happening. We got two teams that are too enthusiastic to try and make their plays and put their stamp on it. We ain't gotten peace, no peace, only violence here.
And that is the best type of League of Legends game. The Flash really showing its dividends in the top lane from Wukong, taking it away, allowing Renekton to afterwards flash on top of the Irelia, get himself first blood, and then is able to run away, making it a 1-0 in this game.
Also mid priority coming up pretty big, and Tristana being able to be there first was able to just kind of dissuade any nonsense. Wukong is able to be lurking around here in the bush, but we're gonna take Aurelia pressing up for anything to really happen. The clone only covers so much ground, and no Flash. He is in a bit of danger, but not grave yet. We'll have to wait until this one plays out.
I don't think Irelia realizes he is there, but Wukong has wasted about 30 seconds on this fight.
Nice stun coming out of this Renekton. No Flash is going to be there for the Aurelia, but the J4 is already here to counter gank this, trying to survive as long as he can, is able to slip out very nicely. Played for this red team. J4 on the hunt, waiting for that E cooldown, looking for that flag drag. Renekton turns around, and his fate is quickly sealed by this Aurelia. Lovely counter gank for this red team.
Yeah, we talked about that somebody was going to be winning this top side, and it's looked like Irelia is coming on top, but only with around about 100 gold lead, so it's looking like it has stabilized out now. But really well played from the Irelia. Seems like she did notice the fight was going to happen in the top lane, called her jungler up, and was able to win the 2v1.
Yeah, I didn't see any wards catching that, if that was just top laner intuition, or if she did catch a glimpse of him kind of wandering his way up to the top side. But they were very prepared, had the Jarvan booking it all the way up into that top lane.
Yeah, And then in the mid lane, we can see that the Tristana is just trying to push out as much as
Well, bot lane
possible.
fight is going to be kicking off here. We got Xayah Rakan is going to be putting the shots into the side of this Leona. The W's be able to soak up most of the damage, and summoner advantage. Once again, red team winning this out. TAA is pressing on the gas here. A dive from the Tristana. The last auto is going to be able to take it, but the turret shot is going to turn this into a 1v1. Wave denied for this Tristana, being able to deny it from the Sylas. TP is going to be able to come back up and get the rest of it, get the guts of it, but still a good play here out of this Tristana, being able to go flash for flash and some denial of XP.
Yeah, really well played from the Tristana. Denying the wave, like said before, as J4 just keeps coming to top lane.
Another pressing gank here. EQ lands. The heal is big, but the damage is bigger. Red team is able to keep hammering away at this TP-less crocodile now, unfortunately.
Yeah, Lyco's a name we're going to have to remember because he is consistently joined in any single fight that his team is going for. But remember, he isn't the only player who keeps going for fights. Sench as well on the enemy team keeps looking like he is now.
And very, very tidy. You think you caught the Rakan, he's able to just dip on out thanks to his lover being perfectly positioned right behind him. They're going to cancel this recall and stay to catch this wave, but very nice plays being made by both junglers already. Once again, off to the races here in this Cobalt wins game 2.
Yeah, priority is on the side of the blue team, so the Tristana is able to move first, making it a 4 versus 3 for a little while. So they need to engage now if they want the good lead in the fight.
Yeah, you can see on your mini-map there, the Sylas is still stuck under his turret. He's finally starting to wander his way now. This is going to be an even fight, but they are a little bit caught. Very nice EQs into 3. Twitch is going to be able to flash, but he's flashing into the waiting arms of the Xayah. Everyone lining up for these daggers. This is going to be huge damage as you line up in straight lines versus a champ who wants you in single file. Line them up, knock them down. Xayah is perfectly positioned in that team fight and likely going to be able to pick up the dragon on the back of it.
Yeah, it was looking so good from the side of the blue team. They had their priority in the mid lane. They were able to get to the dragon first. But then if you don't want to burst down the dragon and you don't want to go for the fight, you just constantly have that dragon just poking you and poking you. And it allowed enough time for Sylas to get the to get his wave cleared, get himself to that fight, making it an even fight. And at that point, because you've been chunked out so much, there's just nothing you can do, and red team take the fight.
And they waited too long. They had their pressure and they just waited a little bit too long, waiting for the perfect when they could have taken the great, honestly.
Yeah, and even in this top lane, Renekton was able to get priority in the top lane, but it just was too little too late. By the time he was walking down, Dragon was already taken and his team was all dead.
Yeah, it's a very, very long walk for this poor Croc, honestly. You're not going to be able to impact that one too rapidly. Another W is going to be landing on this Rakan. Zenith Blade trapping 2 inside on this Cataclysm. Everyone fish in a barrel. Once again, Xayah is going to be able to put the shots into this Twitch. Trying to limp away from the corpse of her AD carry is this Leona, but even with the reinforcements coming, it is not liking the odds on this blue team here. Zenith Blade connects, is able to get a stun. The exhaust is dropped, but you are alone here. No follow-up. Very nice Q lands from the Xayah. The Wukong ult's going to be able to pop up. Xayah is going to be able to get a nice blade color for the root, but the flash to follow from this Wukong is able to put the finishing touches. Honestly, another fight coming out here in the top lane, really just putting me to the test here. There might be a disengage here. Fighting in that wave is usually good, but the Aurelia is the one champion who wants those creeps to dash around to, that extra mobility out of that constantly resetting Q. Honestly, going back a little moment, do you want to break down that Leona going in?
Well, this feels like a one-man casted opportunity with how much fighting is going on. But Leona just trying to think that she is able to stun the Xayah under tower, but just it's a little bit too early because Wukong wasn't able to help her with the engage afterwards. So if they're able to CC her down before she's able to deal any damage, Leona would have been perfectly fine. But yeah, just a little bit too early from her.
And I could see the angle. I could see her weighing it up in her head. You could see her weaving back and forth, trying to decide whether or not her monkey would get there in time. Decides to pull the trigger, and unfortunately, you aim for the king, you better not miss. And shot goes wide from this Leona.
Yeah. Now, Tristana in this mid lane has already got 2.5 plates. Is about to get another plate here. And it's just showing the power of having a ranged mid laner against something like the Silas, who is melee. You're just able to keep poking him and just getting so much priority for his team in this early game.
And you also have the advantage of a spell that hits towers. There are only, I think, what, 8 of those in League total? And one of those being on this Tristana means that not only is she dumping auto attacks into those plates, but she's dumping spells into it too. So just furthermore exacerbating the pressure that she's got there. Every time you get a chunk out on that Silas and he's got to dip on back, without that TP, you're going to be able to just pump damage, spells, and autos alike.
Yeah, but that is a reason that people do pick the Tristana, is to have that priority in the mid lane, able to push it out if they want, or if they want to go for these plates instead, is able to just push that lead further and further.
Bit of a lull here. We got some trading up in the top lane, but it's likely not going to amount to a huge. Just some Conquerors being stacked on both sides. Half health on either side of it. When you got 2 champions with Conqueror and Vamp Scepters, damage is temporary, right? It's not going to stick too hard.
Yeah, no, that's the thing with these champions. It takes about 1 item for them to get to the point.
Watch in from this Tristana. She's going to be able to put the bomb on top of the Silas, but not a huge amount of follow-up. Monkey is going to be able to look for something. Cataclysm dropped here in the top lane. We're going to be snapping back into the 2 fights in quick succession. We have the dive coming through on the top side with Aurelia being able to pick up the Renekton, and on the other side of the map, we got the Silas dropping to that Tristana, her flash paying off. Once again, we're going to get action in all 3 of these lanes as we get another Sunburned. Oh boy, Zach, give me a breather, brother.
I was about to say we might need to both turn into play-by-play casters at this point, man. I don't think there's much use trying to break them down, because by the time I get there, they've already gone on to another fight. Basically, Tristana is going to pick up her 4th plate as well in the mid lane. So Leona is going to be roaming up, trying to give a little bit more pressure in the mid lane. So then if Silas looks for anything, he can just do what he wants.
Yeah, we might have to just split this down the middle, you know? Like, every one of the Baron fights and topside fights I'll take, and you take the bot side and the Dragons. Another one starting off right as we called it, and a beautiful Blade Caller is able to get a chunk here, but seeing the ward reinforcements catching the roaming Leona returning home, Wukong is going to be running after the lovers, but not much follow-up here. A very nice ward in that Tribrush is able to catch the reinforcements, know to snap off the engage, and then get out of there just as quickly as they started. That's the benefit of the Rakan. Under tower and out quick as you like.
Yeah, that's the big issue of having something like the Twitch as your AD carry, is when you're playing side like Leona that wants to roam around the map or wants to make these plays, if you leave your AD carry just slightly too long, the enemy team can easily capitalize on him because he just has no way to defend himself.
Yeah, and especially with the AP, you have to wait until those stacks pick up. You gotta wait until you get those toxic. Can't exactly remember what the poison stacks are called, but another ult is going to be dropped. Thinks better of it, I would agree. That was a recipe to getting stunned up underneath that turret. Reset or no, you are going to be eating huge amounts of damage here.
Yeah, Wukong is maybe looking for Psyche in the top side. Just Wukong and Leica on the what is it? The J4. Just keep looking for fights after fights after fights. These players have only farmed up around 70 CS in the whole game so far.
They do not need to hit camps when they can hit champs, honestly. Silas is be able to get a very nice engage, picking up the Buster shot and just dumping her away from the fight. Wukong ult is going to be able to be dropped. A nice little dive coming out, but a massive Kingslayer buys a massive amount of time. Creeps are not quite able to finish it, and he lives through the minion autos. A outplay in the mid lane for the side of TAA, and this Silas gets paid.
Yeah, Rakan on the backside as well, making sure that the Wukong is not able to do anything there. But Wukong had to use the ultimate to stop them from coming in because he had believed that Tristana was able to outplay that. But because Rakan was there, Silas was able to get the kill, and that's going to be more gold into the pocket of CCG. Oh, sorry, TAA.
And we got, like, honestly, all across the board, everyone is trying to make these plays, but they seem to only really be sticking on the side of TAA right now. Like, as we cut up here to this top side, we got more pressure on this Renekton, who's been poked and prodded and bullied this whole game. It's not an easy life for the Crocodile. It ain't easy being green.
Yeah, he's around about 1.9k behind in this lane, so it's really not looking good for him. That's around about 1.5, well, sorry, of about half an item behind. So if this Irelia ever wants to take a fight against him, the Crook just needs to run.
The other thing is, Aurelia's already full build. She's got Tabbies and Bork. You don't need anything more as an Aurelia. You will be running them down effectively at will once you get that Bork stacked up, and life is good.
Yeah, that's the big thing about top lane is if you have Bork and the enemy laner does not, any fight you're going to take, you're just going to be able to deal more damage and heal a lot more in that fight.
Yeah, especially into this double AD matchup. Especially when you're building the same item, very quickly shows when one of them has it and the other doesn't. Twitch is lurking around. Silas is able to get a nice little chains onto the side of this Twitch. Is he able to stick to him through this blast cone? No, he is not. Going to be able to dip out. Flashing the solar flare, and a nice little play out of the Silas, expending an ult for a flash. That's a positive trade. Rakan is able to get another W. Another second solar flare is coming down, but quick little buster shot buys the elbow room that is required. Silas is going to be stepping forwards onto this Leona, immensely tanky with that extra W, flashing away. Zenith blades her way back in, soon to be popped up into the air. That was an ill-advised turn. Unfortunate here for the CCG team.
Yeah, as this all happened, there was a fight happening into the top side.
Once again, another fight started. Tristan is able to slip on out of there with her pot ticking. I can't even give you a word in Zath. Very sorry.
It's okay,
brother.
it's okay. No worries. It isn't your fault. It's the enemy team's fault for just trying to make too many plays all at once. But it seemed like it is working out for them. They do have around about a 3k gold lead on the side of the red team. They are finally going to base, finally going to allow this game to slowly calm down. There were some big fights to happen though. In the top side, we did have the 1v1 from the Renekton and the Irelia. The Renekton was trying to, bait it out to allow his jungler to come in slightly later, but it was just too little too late. Wukong is able to pick up the kill afterwards, getting a big shutdown on him. So in the next fights, Wukong should be big.
And especially with these item completions coming online for everyone but the supports, we're going to just see more and more damage piled in. So these missteps are going to be punished harder and harder. We're going to see a pop-up as that grand entrance is going to be used as a grand exit as Rakan dips his way back to his team. Nothing happening there in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's looking like everybody's finally just calmed down a little bit, waiting for the next big opportunity. Because if we look on the side of the blue team, they have no ultimate up at all. But if we quickly take a look at the gold from here, we can see how big of a difference there is in some of these lanes. Because if we take a look at the AD carries, we can see on the red team that they have a gold lead of around about 1.5k. But on the top side, it's not looking so nice for the blue team, as they are going to be behind 1.7k as well. It's really in this AD carry and top lane where the difference is.
And it's going to be a tale of two rifts once again. The difference between mid jungle versus the side lanes, where we got Wukong Triss looking pretty good, but then you pan your eyes to this top lane and you are bleeding golds. You are hemorrhaging this at some stage here with these constant pressure of this Renekton.
Yeah, now there's one itemization that I want to talk about. It's just starting to go for an instant bloodthirster.
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing a little bit of this on the AD carry pool since the item got changed. I know MFs will often rush it here, just trying to get as much AD as possible. It's a little unusual on a Tristana who does enjoy that attack speed and wants the attack speed for that E, those stacks being knocked as quickly as possible. So it is interesting to see the raw AD. I guess you want the Vamp to be matching with the Silas W, if I had to guess, to just hold up in lane and keep pressuring without worrying about your health pool, but mana pool isn't going to be a huge issue and no longer health, but it is interesting. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are maybe she wants sustainability in the lane. However, if Tristana does play the lane correctly, she should be able to keep herself pretty healthy. Withheld has been started up again from the side of the red team. It just looks like they want to keep pushing their lead as Dragon's coming up in around about half a minute.
I guess the final thought for the BT would be that Icar shield, be that shield that you get of the overheal, because you don't want to get just one tapped before you can get everything off. So you're trying to buy yourself a little bit of time. That said, once again, you still have that W. Quickness is being popped here, is able to get the charm out. And this team fight's going to be kicking off here as everyone's pressing their buttons. Quick little blade caller is not going to find anybody as the blue team is off to the races here. They are on cleanup duty. Get the mops ready. Trying to get one on the backside here. Silas is able to grab one, but Twitch is dropping. The stopwatch is not going to buy you any more than 2.5 seconds, and a lovely, lovely fight for this blue team.
Yeah, I don't know how blue team was able to take that fight, but they were just, well, they did it. They were able to come out with 3 of their players alive. The only players alive was the Zion of Khan on the enemy team. So we are going to be having a replay to break down what happened. Withheld is pushing into the mid lane, and Tristana's just in the back line, just gets to jump out without damaging, and is able to free fire onto the enemy team. And it's looking like Silas just isn't able to catch up in time onto the enemy team. And by the time he does, the rest of the blue team is around him, and he's just going to die.
And honestly, the Vamp actually did make a difference in that fight. Tristana was caught at the very start of it, was able to just W rocket jump her way out of there, and then sustain her way through that whole fight, being able to a very nice buffer. She's not, the CC has run out. She TPs her way out and dies to the very last auto attack. Very cheeky play, knowing that the CC had run out for this Aurelia and hoped that she could just slip on out of there, but enough damage is poured on with that mythic completion of the Aurelia that's no longer just a Bork Aurelia that you got to worry about. There's some real meat behind those autos now.
Yeah, the Aurelia is very scary in these fights, because when Aurelia gets near to those 2 to 3 items, that's where she really starts coming online. And now that she has the shield bolt as well, just trying to burst it down is almost impossible now.
And she knew from the jump that she had the damage. The minute that rocket jump comes through, she was flashing in, she was hitting that Q. She knew her damage thresholds to a T. Another fight started here in the mid lane. The Flawless Duet is going to be able to stun up and lay that mark down, but nothing much more to follow that one up. Props to this Aurelia for being able to know to the inch what her damage is and what she can output, and is able to just full commit to that.
Yeah, it's looking like they are trying to get priority on to this Baron, trying to find a pick anywhere they can. But remember, if you have Baron in your sight, you're able to really get as much vision as possible and try and find a pick from there.
Rakan is just going to pop the Shirelias for a little bit of move speed, poking and prodding, but the appropriate respect is being paid here for CCG, and they're not going to be caught out quite so easily without more commitment than just an item active.
Yeah, but they don't have vision, so they're going to have to look for this, because they don't know if they started Baron yet.
And that's what it bought you. That item activation bought you this darkness, this wall of complete fear for CCG. We don't quite see the Baron. HP is dropping very quickly, burnt before it can be contested. And they might get one on the back of it. Wukong's going to be able to pop his ult for his safety. Root from the Blade Caller is going to be enough. And Aurelia is going to be taking over this fight. Marked once again. No flash from the previous play to follow it up. But this is another beautiful fight from this red team.
Yeah, you do see the Twitch Aerodactyl to try to get as much as possible by pushing in these waves, giving themselves a little bit of alleviation of pressure, as they do finally grab the mid lane tower, but it's just not worth overall for them. That's a really well played from the side of the red team.
Yeah, and they're playing this very smoothly, honestly. They're just pushing them back, pushing CCG back, pressuring them out, denying their vision. So the best contest they had was a monkey sticking his head into the pit and going, well, there used to be something here. That was about as much as they could muster. So very nicely done for TAA.
Yeah, really well played from them, as it's looking like there's another fight.
Another fight, but this is just going to be a catch for the blue team. Not a whole lot happening to be broken down here. Greed is a deadly sin, and a shutdown going into that Yordle's pockets. Red
yeah,
team,
it's looking like they are.
Something happening, possibly. Flag and drag our way out. They're still chasing. They're giving chase here. kind of at an awkward distance where might happen. We're going to see a flash ult from the Wukong. There it is. Now the fight starting off properly. A 3-man knockup from this Wukong is able to get another one on the back of it. That is likely going to be the rest of it. They were chasing and chasing and chasing. I honestly thought that they were going to be able to dip on out of there, and they're still not done. Still a little bit more to go. Xayah being able to put the shots. No ultimate on this Wukong anymore. Cataclysm is going to be able to lock him down for just long enough. And without that monkey ult, he is going to be dropping to the Xayah.
Yeah, really well played from the side of the red team, being able to catch out the Wukong, who was trying to go for something a little bit more than he was able to get. Dragon is going to be coming up in around about half a minute, or sorry, about a minute and a half. So Wukong will be up for this.
And pretty much constant desperation here for CCG, chasing it down, knowing they got that Aurelia pick, knowing that they were able to get something going, trying to squeeze just a little bit more out of it, and they do, but they end up trading it back, making it the overall play a 2-for-1 for the side of this blue team here.
There are a couple wards that are into the backside for the blue team.
A nice little bush trap here for the red team. A beautiful little buster shot. W from the Rakan is able to follow, and Aurelia is just going to be tearing through these ranks. There it is. Knock one down already. Tristana has fallen. Doing as best a job as he can at peeling is this Wukong, and he's able to actually save his Twitch. Very nicely done there. There's an auto attack battle here. Quickly, Blade Caller buying enough time after she goes up into that Xayah ultimate, kiting it out quite tidily. He's able to get another one here. Very nicely done from this Xayah. She gets 2. She stands and delivers. Lovely stuff. Trading out auto attacks with the Twitch before eventually pressing those keys, going up into the air with that ultimate and flashing out, blocking the damage from the Twitch. There's going to be another pop-up here. Twitch is not going to be healthy enough to really contribute much to this fight, so Rakan is just going to have to slink away as best he can. Blast Cone is going to be the difference maker, as both of those fights are swiftly ended, with Sylas taking out the Twitch and Wukong claiming the support. Now they get to duke it out. The winners of the 2 duels, the Battle Royale, they're able to get a huge bonk over the head with that monkey Q. Sylas is going to be waiting for those spells. Kingslayer goes golden, but the reinforcements are here trying to soak it up. Very nice. J4 grabs the Wukong, but Tristana is able to trade it back. They're just swinging for the fences, Athos. Trading on trading on trading.
It's fight after fight, as you keep saying, but it is seeming like it's going to be a victory by the end of it to the red team. It was so long of a fight that people were able to respawn and get there to fight yet again, as we are going to be having a replay of the fight. Now, in this fight here, we can see that Sylas was able to pick off the Twitch into the bot lane, and he's finally going to go for that 1v1. He does miss the chains, but he just has too much damage. He has to play this fight slow, or Wukong will just auto-attack him to death. The Tristana TP as well does come out as he almost gets the kill, but just not enough. So then J4 is able to pick that up. Then Tristana with her bomb is able to pick him off and then jump to safety.
The J4 dropping the swag flag on him, all 80 damage, was able to pick that one up nice and easy. And Sylas playing that one very tidily, and able to get those sustains, get those W's out, being able to, like you said, if he stands and trades autos, you lose that every day of the week, twice on Sunday. So very nicely played. Able to get a 1-for-1, both of these players, the Wukong and Sylas playing it quite well.
Yeah, no, that's the benefit of Sylas, is when you have these long extended fights, he's able to heal up so much. So it's important for him to try and make the fights last as long as possible, especially when he knows his team is coming up behind him. But it's looking like the red side are trying to get vision for this Baron yet again, trying to get themselves a pick like they want to. There are a few wards still here for the blue team, so they are finally going to get taken out.
And they're just, honestly, they're doing their homework very nicely. Right? It's not something fun to do. You know, ward sweeping isn't exactly the most nail-biting, gripping thing you have to do, but it's got to be done. You got to go through those steps. You got to try and press the mat. You got to try and pick up the vision, and now they're able to have an advantageous fight starting off. Solar Flare isn't going to connect with very much. 2-man pop-up for this Wukong, as the Aurelia is knocked very far into those backlines. She is isolated by herself with a 3v1, and now they have a man up, traded quickly back by this Xayah. There are two read lines as the two 4v4 stacks are able to stand up. Another EQ is going to be able to land. Diving into those back lines is the blue team, but the red team is able to kite this one out, trying to slip their way out. Xayah, Rakan prove victorious so far. And very, very nice little reset after the engage. They trade 1-for-1, and then blue team tries to press their luck. CCG pressing just a little too hard on the gas, and they spin out into the kite back of TAA.
Yeah, that's just nothing there's nothing that the team can do now because of everybody dying that fight. But it was just so close with both teams. It's looking like it's going to be a win from the side of the blue team. But Xayah is just able to kite out so perfectly here. We see Wukong flashing, trying to get anything, but Rakan instantly stunning up, allowing Xayah to do a little bit more damage. Because Wukong keeps running through the whole entire team, they're able to just slowly get him down to death.
As we snap back to live, we take a look down at that scoreboard. Despite Renekton's constant abuse here by his team, he's able to even out that gold lead for the most part through that farm. There's only the kill difference here. He's able to farm quite nicely into the Aurelia, so props for that, even though he's being abused somewhat. Picking up those minions is a very, very valuable thing, and keeping this gold close and competitive at least.
Now, that's one thing we have to talk about is a gold lead at the early game compared to now is a big difference. Because when you have 2.5 items compared to 3, it's not as big compared to having 1 items to 0. So having around about a 3k gold lead doesn't really matter too much in these fights. It's really how you execute it.
Absolutely. 3k gold when you have 3 items does not mean the same thing as 3k gold when you have 1. So once again, the map is completely black for the blue team, and CCG is not able to get any foothold in this river. It has been dominance from TAA in terms of vision, and you can't smite what you can't see.
Yeah, and that's the that's the best thing that the red team has done so far, is making sure that if the enemy team dares walks into you, you kill them, or you're able to get the Baron if they don't. Really textbook stuff that they played well. And their 3 Drakes already on the side of the red team, so the next one coming up soon is going to be important for them.
Absolutely. And when you have that fear of a Rakan hiding in every bush, a J4 hiding in every bush, you do not want to be face-checking this TAA squad with pretty much every single one of them able to kick off a fight in their own way. Even the Xayah, if she gets those 3 feathers, gets a root going, and the rest will just come dumping in on top.
Yeah, and it's looking like red team is just playing as a ball together. Remember, Twitch is on his own in the bot lane, but he does have the invisibility if he wants to get out.
He's able to just kind of stealth it out. The crown will stop any random bits of damage from blowing him up. Another engage is going to be starting here in the bot lane. Perfectly positioned for the Twitch. Xayah is able to get the callback through 3, but she is dropped immediately by this Wukong. Once again, the marksman on the other side is going to be taken down. Just marksman for marksman on both sides, but now the damage is pouring through on both sides. It's going to be a very quick, clean fight. Not so much anymore, as the Sylas is able to go golden and Wukong is able to slip on out of there. Very nicely done from the blue team, as they were able to get almost completely turning that fight around by the Sylas. I thought it was going to be a lot sooner. He was able to get another one of those W's that you were talking about, slowing it down, getting that sustain going, and a beautiful fight earns themselves another dragon and 5 more minutes of life in this game.
Yeah, no, if we take a look at this replay, remember how Xayah was so huge in most of the fights, but because of the Leona being able to go straight onto her, instantly popped, instantly dead, meaning that their whole entire enemy team is just able to pop off. The only saving grace the red team has was this Sylas instantly killing the Twitch in the game, and then trying to go gold and try to buy enough time to allow his jungler to go away. If it wasn't for this Sylas, it would have been a clean 5-0 for the blue team.
Yeah, I was a little bit tricked by that extra sustain. I just assumed that it would be a quick wipe as the Twitch was then dropped, and more of this weight is going to fall on the Sylas' shoulder moving forwards. The Aurelia was the absolute menace in the early game, but Sylas seems to be doing the lion's share of the work if the Xayah is ever caught out of position.
Sylas does have the death cap, so it makes a lot of sense why that champion does so much damage. But even with the Twitch here, I feel like this Twitch just isn't able to do much in these fights, just isn't hitting the ground running.
Yeah, I honestly thought that was pretty much as good positions you could want there, stealthing into those back lines, able to open up with that rat-a-tat-tat, but it didn't seem like that E did as much of that. Those solo queue twitches that always just run around with like 1,300 kills somehow, despite it being 3 minutes into the game and just two-tapping you the minute that E goes off. Didn't seem like I
Yeah.
saw that big chunk came out of the E. There was some chip, but there wasn't the like formidable I can no longer team fight because this rat just stole my health bar moment.
I feel like he needs to watch a few more Rat IRL videos and he should be up and ready to go. I think he has a full week before his next game where he can maybe show us what the Twitch damage can be like. But remember, if he's able to get all the stacks off, his damage is huge. So the blue team is going to the enemy jungle in a position that is not expected.
They both have the same idea. The Bush Wookiees have come out as everyone's going to be able to jump out from their surprise perches. The Xayah is going to be knocked very far away by this Buster Shot, but still be able to put the shots through on top of it. Rakan is going to be dipping out after the Tristana drops for the first time. Guardian Angel is going to be knocked down for this Wukong, and the Twitch Poison claims J4 on the back of it. A 1-for-1 in the end. Both teams having the same idea of, we'll set a trap and hope they fall for it. But when you are both setting traps, it's not quite as one-sided as either one of you would hope, as a dive is coming through between T2 and Inhib turret. Renekton able to slink his way out of there, and reinforcements have arrived to force Aurelia out. See if the chase down is going to be there. The massive, massive slow here from the Twitch may as well be a root, all things considered. Aurelia is not long for the world. And the reverse caster curse, right as we said, Twitch will show us what he does. Twitch does what he does best, pops out of a shadow, and picks up the gold on this Aurelia.
I loved how he was just smirking in that fight as the slow just made it where he just wasn't able to escape. But if we were to go quickly back to that fight that happened in the top red side of the enemy team, actually did notice they were in the bush. They were spotted on a ward before, but Silas was trying to be on the teeter edge of it, but was just slightly too close, allowing the enemy team to go in. And then as they went in, Silas, as he was going to jump onto them, Tristana just pushed away the enemy player, meaning that the Xayah was perfectly safe in that fight.
Yeah, and it's so tough to tell the difference between that E coming out from Tristana and the R coming out. So yes, she does have the Xayah ult to be able to deny the pushback. The differentiation between the E and the R is really, really tough to do on reflex.
You get used to it. When you play enough AD carry, you understand what a buckshot looks like.
I'm just saying, to do it every single time can... don't go jumping on top of this Xayah. Oh, well, I would have ulted it. It's a little trickier than it looks, eh?
Yeah, well, casting is a little bit trickier than it looked itself, as Red Team has started up the Baron.
Once again, this time the blue team is able to get a little bit more of a foothold. They have a couple of wards, including the one that is currently being TP'd to, so we'll actually have a contest from the side of this blue team. Here in the back lines, we have a catch onto this Rad. We got 2 mana surrounding him and able to turn this into a 4v5 very quickly. Red team is able to knock down the Wukong as well, but the kills start pouring back in for the blue team. As this team fight is off to the races, another jump out, 2-man Buster Shot buys as much space as she can get. Able to flash away from those chains. Very nicely done from this Tristana. Able to make the great escape. Push them off the Baron at the cost of 1 extra kill.
Not just 1 extra kill. If they're able to get this Croc here, that's going to be a free Cloud Soul off towards them. And we know how powerful these ults are going to be from the red side.
And the hits just keep on coming in this game. Every single time I draw breath, there's another fight following it up. Very nicely done. Red team is able to grab the Cloud Dragon and Soul as their prize.
Yeah, no, it was a really unlucky mistake coming out from the Twitch. He was trying to find a flank in that last flight, but then he just walked into an Irelia hiding in the bush, and that Irelia has never had a happier day of her life. As Twitch flashed over, Irelia did as well. There's just nothing she could do.
Once you end up in melee range of that champion, it is so tough to get out of it, honestly.
Yeah, but Baron is still up for both these teams. Even if they have Cloud Soul, it doesn't instantly affect your damage. It just gives you extra speed. It allows you to get extra picks if you want to. As Wukong is looking from the backside of this as Baron started.
Able to try and sneak around a little bit, especially that Rakan is going to press his R key and zoom around like a race car. The denial of vision is able to be enough to stop any of these steals coming through, even though Wukong was very nicely positioned looking for something, trying to get a, an honorable burger flip smite, but again, props to the vision control of TAA. They're able to do their due diligence and deny those hero moments out of the jungler on CCG.
Yeah, the whole entire time they didn't want to go for that whole fight for the blue side because Tristana was on the bot side going for a little bit of extra farm and then just wasn't going to be there in time because of no TP. Even with the gold lead now, it is only around about 4k with everybody hitting their major item spikes.
And now the question is, we have claimed our prize that we fought so hard for. How do we leverage that into a Nexus?
Well, do you know how you leverage a good old Baron? It is called pushing the lane as hard as possible, as you're seeing here. But when you are against the Tristana, it's going to be hard to keep this cannon minion alive. But if you keep poking and prodding, that base will slowly fall.
Just kind of escorting those Baroned up creeps. Get a little bit of chip here, a little bit of chunk there, a little bit of damage in and out. Able to get a pick here on the backside. Renekton's going to be able to slip away. Just trying to contest those creeps before they even get anywhere near his structures. Just trying to fight them before they even make it to the gates of their castle. Don't need to hold the door if you can keep them off it entirely.
Yeah, the big issue is Silas has to go all the way back to get the minion wave himself, meaning that there's going to be a long period of time before he's actually able to use that Baron.
And ideally, you try and get these waves to sync up so you're contesting multiple places at the same time. So let's see if TAA is able to do that. First turret is claimed here for the side of TAA. Pushing forwards here. You may be looking for an engage if you see too many people showing on vision in the top side. Instead, deciding to slip on back, give it up, and be happy and settled with their extra turret claimed on both sides of the map in top and bottom.
Yeah, slowly getting this gold lead bigger and bigger. So they got themselves around about a 6 or 7k gold lead. And Silas is just such a menace in this 1v1.
Tristana jumping on top of his head. I'm not sure that's where you want to be, into a Silas. Oh, the heartbreak on the side of this Tristana. Now the cleanup crew has arrived. Red team, blue team making a good effort here, and CCG is able to get a nice turnaround here. Rakan is going to be dropping, but the Xayah is too. Both sides are able to hold their lines. Just a little bit more damage can be pumped in here. Aurelia gonna just try and lifesteal her way through it. Twitch is putting the shots in, slipping his way backwards. One more E will do it. Zonya's ing the EQ from the Jarvan, flashing away. The Q does not connect from this Jarvan. GA is popped, and the distance will be bought from this Twitch, letting the Renekton do the cleanup. And he's able to just EQ away very nicely, able to just get that disengage after that GA. I did not think he was going to be very long for the worlds between stuck in the blue team's base.
The GA gave him around about 1.2k HP, so it was easy for him to slink away because they didn't have enough burst damage to get through his armor. But yeah, in that fight, it was really down to the Solar Flare coming out of that Leona, stunning up the Xayah as well. Because take a look, Xayah has Flash, has Heal, and even the Ultimate, but just not able to react in time to the Solar Flare, allowing her to instantly go down and allowing her team to be able to focus everyone else.
And I gave her the pass on the Buster shot because I notoriously have horrible trouble trying to get that. But the Leona ult should be able to be detected in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was just unlucky from the Xayah. But remember, if they're not able to find engage like that, even with one of their members instantly getting taken out, they were almost able to win that fight. So it's looking very difficult for the blue team still.
Yeah, CCG not out of the woods yet. They're able to win the battle, but how much more can they squeeze out of this? Another fight looks to be brewing the mid lane. There it is. The fight is going to be started here. Quickness is popped as Tristana jumps into those backlines there. She goes up into the air, goes invulnerable. Tristana following, giving chase there. Blade Color does not connect, and she's able to blow up the lovers duo, averting our eyes back down in here to the lane. Aurelia is not going to be long for the world. The hero play is not going to happen in the middle of 4 people. She's going to be cleaned up very rapidly. Flawless duet, and Tristana is able to blow up the backline. Amazing play here, able to get that Xayah forced out of the fight and then put in the dirt.
That is how you win a fight. There may even be an end here. We do have the Renekton hiding, trying to do as much as he can to defend his base. But with 20 seconds left in their timers, I think they might be able to do it.
And this might be just the close there. One big play out of this Tristana is able to just start pumping damage into those turrets. That's what she's built for. The Demolitionist is able to knock these down, and big swing from CCG. This Tristana and that single team fight in the mid lane puts the finishing touches on this game. Very, very well done and well fought to both sides. But CCG picks up the victory in game 2.
Yeah, they go 2-0 in the first week. And even with the first games of this, and this is what Cobalt's wins league is. It's the outplays. It is the times where we weren't expecting them to come win. But they did come with a bit of a comeback at the end and just well played, getting their Xayah to not be able to play the game.
Yeah, and it's just immense pressure here on that dive is incredibly well done. The Lovers duo is so powerful if you can line them up and you're able to hold those two very separate front line, back line, fight between those two. But Tristana made it scrappy, made it ugly, sailing into that back line, knocking people around with the buster shot, jumping around herself, and just a very, very well team fought CCG is able to pick up the victory and the sweep.
Yeah, no, very well played from the side of CCG. And one thing we do here at Kobo's Wins League is pick our favourite player, who we thought played the best during both series. Do you have anybody in mind?
I mean, as a very, very biased member of the support mains, I really, really liked the Rochesh, the Leona being able to get a couple big picks onto this Xayah and constantly, even in game 1, just constantly roaming around the map, roaming around, able to get fights started, trying to cover that mid lane especially. So a bit of a hat tip to the unsung hero. Didn't knock them down, but was able to buy space and buy time.
Yeah, for me, I would probably have to give it over to Mugler because of how powerful that Tristana was in that last game. Was able to get so much pressure, get so many picks, and even in the game before that, having that Orianna and was able to stay so safe, even against an enemy team that clearly just wanted to hard focus him.
And honestly, you could rewind back through this pair of games and make a highlight reel of all 10 players on this Rift. Everyone had their moments. They stepped up, they stood, and they delivered. The Rat was able to get his angles at the end there. Tristana obviously going huge. Honestly, the Echo in the first game, despite it not working out, was still able to make a lot happen. There was just all across the board, people getting work done and showing what they had. Very, very well done, and congratulations to both teams, despite the sweep.
Yep, Sandbag, it's been an absolute pleasure casting with you. Also having Logic behind the scenes, making this whole entire thing possible. So well played to both teams. What an incredible start to Cobalt Wins League. Logic, when's the next game, may I ask? What day? So, we have 20 o'clock CEST tomorrow. We got another game coming up for you, and you do not want to miss it. We have some of the hypest teams coming up for you then. But this is going to be it from me and Sandbag. I hope you guys have a good day, and we will see you guys tomorrow.